Welcome to Because You Need to Know, recorded live at the Cohen Multimedia Studio at Chautauqua Institution. I am Edwin K. Morse, President and Founder of Pioneer Knowledge Services. This series is your digital resource of valuable conversations with nonprofit and knowledge management enthusiasts from across industries and from around the globe. Today's guest is John Coles. John works with organizations on business optimization, knowledge management, and digital transformation. He has 25 years experience working at companies like Apple, Dell, and Booz Allen Hamilton, with a focus on effective knowledge flow across organizations. His specialties include developing internal and external customer journeys that create an effortless experience. In addition, John is a member of the International Standards Organization, where he is helping to define the ISO Knowledge Management Standard, which is referred to as ISO 30401. Can you explain what the ISO even is?
Edwin, the ISO is International Standards Organization. It is a organization that was stood up in the 40s, and really, I guess one of the stories that I like to tell is around World War II. You had all these different manufacturing sites building machines for the military, and an organization would need a number 6 hex nut. Well, that number 6 hex nut wasn't the same as another 6 hex nut coming out of another factory. There was definitely problems as far as that could go. And so the ISO standards somewhat had a heavy lift from there. But ISO standards apply to everything today. So doing wine tasting, a wine tasting glass has a certain measurement for it to be an official wine tasting glass. And ISO sets the standards for that. ISO sets the standards for quality. ISO sets the standards for knowledge management. They're creating one for HR, environmental standards, all different types of standards that we see.
So to go back to your example, so there's I guess that makes an even keel, especially if you're in a bidding situation for machine parts or something that's a manufactured item, to have the standards saying, hey, these are the standards these things have to be at, so you can't underbid by just making shoddy stuff. Right? Yeah. That kind of gets into that, and it makes a uniformed way an organization can, invest in that standard to say, hey, we're up to standard, and that becomes kind of a sales pitch for them, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So you'll see a lot of the standards coming into play with the government. The government will adopt a standard. They'll adopt the quality standard, 9001. Mm-hmm. They'll adopt a service standard. They'll adopt the EPA standard. And it gives them a set of guidelines that they can work from that have been identified by experts from around the world. I am the expert for the United States. There's 45 more people that we have worked with in, I think, 100 and something countries. To really get feedback regarding these standards. And that happens with all the standards that come into play.
So I guess with that framework, you really don't run the risk of having a certain bias, right? If you're involving that many different people from that many different cultures to have a say in this, it brings a real equalization, right? Ideally.
Absolutely. The other piece to that is that we volunteer. We're part of the ISO standard. Within the United States, it's ANSI, ANSI. But we volunteer, so we're not getting paid. We're not getting paid to drive in a particular for a particular organization or in a particular way. We look at it from our expertise and say this is how it makes sense within the United States, or this is how it makes sense in Germany. Bringing together the group of people from across the world is really exciting, but it's the minor differences that you really start to see and you run into, and that's what usually takes a long time. The standard itself, specifically for knowledge management, is if you're familiar with knowledge management and have been in the field for a while, there's really nothing that I don't think it would surprise you what is listed there, mm-hmm. But it lays out what we've all agreed upon from around the world.
Mm-hmm. So there's actually proof that multinational organizations can all agree on a definition of what knowledge management is.
Yeah. Yes. Right. Yeah,
which the standard came out in the fall of 2018. So I jumped right on the bandwagon because that to me is exciting information to have that because organizations have been trying to get their hands around what it is and how do you do it, and I think that just adds so much foundational pieces to the industry of knowledge management going forward, because now we've got something at least to start with. We've got we can base an action plan based off of this material.
Absolutely. I guess one of the jokes, I don't know if it just applies to the knowledge management industry, but the joke is if you send 10 knowledge management people into a room to define a standard, they'll come out with 15 different standards. Yeah, to your point, it gives us a guideline. The big value that I see in it is being able to take the standard in front of a C-level or some kind of executive sponsor, some leadership. When they start to talk about a knowledge management system, you could say, well, it's not just crowdsourcing. It's not just knowledge retention. It's not just creating a SharePoint knowledge base. Knowledge management is these 10 things, these 57 different shall statements. This is what knowledge management really is. And it allows the organization to think beyond, we're going to go set up a SharePoint.
Sure.
So that people can find stuff, and it takes it to the next level.
So in that framework, what you're just speaking of, does that give credence to it being a do-it-yourself KM plan? Should a small organization be able to say, we're interested in this, we know something about it, can they just buy this and say, okay, I've got my roadmap, I'm going to follow the directions?
It's a guideline. It is here are I think Nick Milton puts it really best in that it's not, hey, here's how to make a 3-level chocolate devil's food cake with cream cheese icing. It's the kitchen, and here's how you set up the kitchen to make the cakes, to make the desserts, to make the different foods that you want to that you do on a regular basis. So it's the guidelines for that. I think one thing, and I sort of borrow this from the Consortium for Service Innovation, and I've sort of tweaked it, is that knowledge management is not something you do in addition to your work. Knowledge management is how you do your work.
Yeah. Well, I agree with that.
The standard itself provides great areas. So at first, it looks at the context of the organization. I'm really proud that ISO really started there. Instead of starting at how to plan KM or how to support KM, said, look, let's go do an assessment. Let's understand what the context of the organization is all about. What are they doing? What are they trying to do? What do they want to do? Mm-hmm. And then start to get engaged with how you manage the flow of information and knowledge across an organization. So going from context, you go into leadership of KM,
right?
The planning and support of it, the operations, performance evaluations, recognition, and then of course improvement. So those are sort of the big areas of knowledge management.
So this ISO 4KM is a standalone standard just in the realm of KM, but there's also KM comes up in other standards, correct?
Absolutely. So most recently, the way that this standard has been developed is that it falls within the same documentation style that other standards have filed their standard. This helps essentially create Lego pieces. So this is specifically I think it's an MSS type standard. There are other standards such as the ISO 9001 is an MSS type standard.
So give me what MSS is. What does that mean?
It's the management system standard is what that is, what it's called for ISO. And there's a few different little ways that ISO can do that, but it's an MSS standard within the ISO framework. And so it ends up becoming a Lego piece so that when somebody has an ISO 9001 quality initiative, they've achieved certification in 9001, and they want to meet the latest, greatest certification, which includes a clause for organizational knowledge as of 2015. they're able to actually turn to the knowledge management standard 30401 and say, you know what, that fits what that follows the MSS platform, and we can plug and play it right in within ISO 9001.
So tell me how this usually works in an organization that wants to adopt an ISO. Do they bring it in-house and say, okay, we're going to do this? Is there a whole cottage industry out there of folks that are the bridge between the organization and where they want to go in this development?
The cottage industry hasn't really built up around ISO itself. It's just starting out. But I think, more importantly, you'd mentioned it previously about a small business. If a small business wants to go after this, do they need to go get certification?
Mm-hmm.
The answer is no. They don't need to get certification. They can if they want. And there's essentially 3 levels of certification. One is, hey, we're basically going to audit ourselves and apply the framework to ourselves, and we'll guide ourselves. All right. There's not any certification there, but the ISO 30401 document allows that to occur. The second level is where you actually have somebody that has some expertise in ISO 30401 come in and do some consulting or do some guidance around 30401. And then the third is similar to the second, the fact that you bring an external force and an external resource in to audit what you've done, and they are a certified member of ISO and can give you that label of certification for ISO 30401.
And I presume there's a price scale for each level.
The first two, the first one's free, right? Other than you go out and buy the ISO standard for $138 US. So that's all up to you. The second one relies upon which consultant that you want to work with that's familiar with the 30401 standard. And then the third is reaching out to the ISO certification group.
Does this give an edge to an organization other than the performance improvements it's designed to do once adopted? How does this benefit an organization?
Yeah, so it absolutely does. What it does is that I think it allows an organization to step back and really understand what are they trying to do. As I mentioned, it's knowledge management. It's not something you do in addition to your work. This is it. This is your livelihood. How you store your information, how you grow your information, how you manage it, how you get your people to collaborate and share it. I mean, that's what an organization is. A set of prescribed guidelines or a pathway that has been identified by experts. So absolutely, this becomes a benefit for an organization to be able to take a look at this. I guarantee it, a lot of organizations may be doing some of this, but they're not doing all of it. That's where this starts to really lend itself to some value by identifying those gaps.
Historically, when bids go out or RFPs go out for shopping new bids and vendors, is it common that they say you must be ISO compliant, or is that something that's coming for KM?
It's I don't think that we'll see that in anytime in the near future. I know that a lot of organizations are looking into it. The U.S. military they have a knowledge management, I think it's a monthly meeting across all the branches, and 30401 does commonly come up, and it's being somewhat of a helpful guideline for those folks, the way I understand it.
Okay.
NASA's looked at it. I think the World Bank has looked at it. There's some heavy hitters that are taking a look at it. As I said previously, when you come back to it, it's from a knowledge management professional. There's really not a lot of new things that we've listed there, but we finally laid it out and said, this is the standard. And it gives everybody sort of that same level playing field of, oh, you got to have this. You'll have a knowledge retention plan for your folks to be able to grab information from. We're not telling you what kind of knowledge retention plan, but the fact that you should have
some sort of mechanism. Yeah, right. You got it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So You're going to have a different perspective and a higher level of integration of parts and pieces. But do you see this as being beneficial to like organizations such as municipalities, county governments, anything like that? Does that even make sense for them to look at this?
My eyes are bugging out. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So
I know you can't see it on the podcast, but if I could bug my eyes louder, I would. I mean, it's for really any organization. That's just as simple as going out to a lot of these public entities and taking a look at their website and how they present information and what's listed there.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just sort of a no-brainer. Also, streamlining an organization. I could definitely see how this can remove some of the bureaucratic red tape that permeates government entities and municipalities today.
So this might be a very good, interesting plank for someone to stand on their running information of what they're representing if they get elected. Knowledge management, or at least the standard, might be something they would tout.
Wouldn't that be a gas?
Wouldn't that something?
Is that you would have some whatever city official or delegate or whoever come out and say, yeah, we're going to make our internal operations knowledge management 30401 compliant to serve our customers serve our customers better.
To serve the citizens, right? We're gonna this is citizens focused governmental model. Yes.
Yeah, pinch me. I'm dreaming.
It could happen. We're wrapping up here on time. So tell me what your definite, not the ISO's definite, because you've been doing KM all over the place. So what's your working definition of KM?
I go back to Andrew Carnegie from U.S. Steel. This is my favorite quote. And so, I mean, you think about knowledge management, and I think it was Peter Drucker that coined the term knowledge management. Knowledge workers, yeah. We have the information age, and Dr. John Lewis says that we're now going from the information age to the explanation age and all things. But at the end of the day, I go back to knowledge management's about people. Maybe that's what it all is. Just knowledge management's about people. But I'm going to expound on that a little bit further. You could have AI and you could have all kinds of cool tools, but knowledge management's about people. And Andrew Carnegie said, this is before technology was even involved, the only irreplaceable capital an organization possesses is the knowledge and ability of its people. The productivity of that capital depends on how effective people share their competence, those who can use it. That still
plays today. It plays well today.
Absolutely. So you can throw as much AI as you want it and whiz bang technology that you can spend money on, but it depends upon your people.
Well, thank you very much for your time and expertise.
You bet. Enjoyed it.
Recorded live at the Cohen Multimedia Studio at Chautauqua Institution. Because You Need to Know is designed to bring people's experience and their knowledge forward to be shared. I'm Edwin K. Morris, and I thank you for joining in to listen to another conversation brought to you as a public service of Pioneer Knowledge Services, a nonprofit tax-exempt organization with a charitable knowledge management purpose. Find us online at pioneer-ks.org and add your voice to the conversation on Facebook.